I made such a big financial mistake. I mean, clearly, right? We have no equity in our home. I'm still so mad at myself about this. I actually got my real estate license and I was going to be a realtor. I was the one that was the realtor for our purchase.
Hold on. She got her real estate license. Boy, I can't tell you how many times in the comments I've seen this. I'm not going to hire a realtor. I'm going to get my license and represent myself. Oh, really? Well, let me just share a little information with you. Passing the test, paying the money is not going to teach you how to buy a house. So someone tells you that houses are selling like hotcakes and that you have to make a decision right away within hours of a home going on the market, but yet no inspection contingencies anyway. So in order to actually get this house, you need to go to mom and dad in a lot of cases, get gift money because you have to overpay list price by 10, 12, or 15%. And this continues to happen for several years, and no one thought that it would end. I mean, certainly when you're in the middle of it and all the exuberance is going on, the fear of missing out, everything else that's involved with it, no one is actually saying, hey, time out. These are not hotcakes. These are houses, and they're expensive to fix. And there are a lot of remorseful people.
I'm going to keep it 100%. Home ownership is not what I expected it to be. Honestly, if I had my time back, I would never in a million years have bought a condo. I regret it so much. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life. Renting, you have that like stress-free, no worry in the world. If something in my condo breaks, it's my responsibility to fix that issue. If I'm renting, I just call up my property manager, landlord, whoever, and just say, hey, this is broken, this appliance isn't working.
And a lot of people came, especially the most remorseful home buyers that I have spoken with, a lot of them came from renting. They either came out of mom and dad's basement, or they were in a rental with a roommate. Maybe they didn't have a roommate. Maybe they could afford it on their own, but they didn't realize that going into a house, buying a house, that number one, their mortgage payment would end up going up after they were in there for the first year because taxes and insurance rise every year. But they didn't realize that the house that they bought was double or triple the size of their apartment. Their utility bills doubled and tripled and sometimes quadrupled because a lot of these operating systems in the houses that they bought were not efficient. And they didn't realize how expensive that would be, that on top of repairs. So not getting home inspections. They had a lot of things in many cases to fix and repair. And a lot of these first-time buyers are enslaved to their home.
When you're a homeowner, you're the one that has to do the research on finding someone to come in. You're the one that has to take the time and make sure everything's working smoothly. It's such a headache. I'll give you an example. Today, I had the unit below my condo say that they have a leak in their washroom. It's my responsibility to call a plumber, contact the property manager, and make sure it's fixed. And when you're a renter, that's not my problem. Like, my landlord will fix that problem. I'm paying rent, and that's a wrap. That's where my responsibility finishes.
And when you're buying a condominium, your unit, you're responsible for to ensure that. So your complex, if you imagine you have a condominium building, maybe there's 6 units in it, 8 units, 12 units, depending on the size of the building. But the outside of that condo building is called common area elements. Certainly, if you're on the 3rd floor, 5th floor, whatever, the top floor of a condo building and the roof leaks, you can't just make that person that the roof is leaking on top of pay for it. It's the whole condo association's responsibility to replace or repair the roof. But when you're talking about inside your unit, you have to ensure that if your unit leaks down on the unit below you and does a whole bunch of damage, they're coming back after you and your policy, individual policy for that kind of repair when you're a condominium owner.
If I could turn back time, I would never have bought. I would have just stayed a renter. And honestly, the extra money that I would have had, I don't have to pay property taxes and have to pay for repairs. Extra money, I would have poured it into investments.
And before the investors watching or anyone else that is ignorant to the fact of what she just said, and I mean that in a positive way. I'm not, the true sense of ignorance is not knowing. So I'm not being derogatory when I say this, but if you think about what she said, I'm not paying property taxes, I'm not paying insurance. A lot of landlords or people that think they know will say, well, that's not true because the landlord's collecting the rent based on all of those expenses that the landlord has to pay. They have to pay the property taxes, so that's getting passed through to the tenant. But that's not true. A lot of times these landlords can't recapture their operational costs of everything that is an expense to them. So a lot of the landlords that are doing well today are landlords that bought their house prior to houses doubling in prices over the last 5 years. So she's right. You do not have to worry about the increases that the landlord's getting in property taxes and insurance necessarily, because that landlord has to be competitive in the marketplace of the rents that they are collecting, or their tenant's going to leave.
Future me would have been a lot better off. Just something to keep in mind, home ownership the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
And I've had a lot of people that have said this same exact thing to me. They said, Todd, I wish that I would have not bought when I did. I wish I would have waited a couple more years, saved up some more money. Home ownership and with a lot of our first-time buyers has turned out to be overrated in their eyes. And it's permanent. Not permanent like you can never move, but it is kind of permanent. You can't just pack up and leave at the end of your 2-year lease or the end of your 12-month lease. Now you're stuck. Real estate is not a liquid asset. It's not like going to the bank and taking your money out of the bank if you have any equity anyway to sell and have money in your pocket after all the costs of selling, but you're stuck. And a lot of people are regretful because they bought in an area that they found out really they don't like. And now they can't sell it because the price has come down and they can't sell it. And all the cost of commissions and transfer and recordation fees, all that added up puts them in an underwater position where they have to come out of pocket to even sell it to the next guy. But you're stuck when you buy your house. You're kind of stuck there for 5 or 7 years or 10 years. You can't move to the next complex because you like it better.
Wants to know how horrible homeownership is or can understand the pain behind it sometimes. Oh, okay. Where do I start? Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm 24. I own a home. I know it's a unicorn situation. It's cool. It's great. It's dandy. It's whatever. I have had a leaking water heater for probably a week and a half now. And I know some of you are going to be like, Morgan, that's way too long. I know. But it slowly progressed. It got worse over time. I just put towels up under it and just gathered it toward the front and was like, oh, if I soak up the water and figure out where the problem is, I'll be fine. It got to the point where it was getting overflowing into my entire HVAC room. So I was like, maybe I should probably get this checked out. But the plumber comes today and he looks at everything and he goes, for a 4-year-old water heater, because I moved into this house 2 years ago. And the water heater is only 4 years old because I was the first person that moved in here after it was built. First, he looks at me straight faced and he was like, for the 30-something years that I've been in this entire business and I've been a plumber, I have never seen such bad corrosion. Ignore the fucking mess. I've never seen such bad corrosion and rust and filth on a 4-year-old water tank and water heater. Not only that, but he said the gauge, the little pressure gauge that is on it that basically tells it how hot or how cold to make the fucking water is broken. Completely broken. So, which makes sense because every other person that's come in my house that's washed their hands at my kitchen sink is like, oh, 0 to hero. Every single time they wash their hands, like, Morgan, why is your shit so hot? And I was like, I don't know. I guess that's just how it is. And so I turned the gauge down. That's not fucking helping anymore.
Oh, man. Oh, look. So water heaters should last, on average, 7 to 10 years is kind of what I tell people. Sometimes they'll go longer than that. I've seen 20-year-old water heaters, but when they go out, right? It's usually not a small leak, and it's usually you're away on vacation and your water heater goes out. I will say that water quality has a lot to do with it. They put these rods in them now that collect a lot of the particles in the water that are corrosive to water heaters. Usually you can tell in the water when your water heater is getting ready to go. And if you just turn on your hot water and fill up a glass, you'll see black particles floating around. If there's black particles in the water, it's probably because it's corrosion coming from your water heater. So I always recommend you get to 10 or 12 years, certainly replace that water heater. But there are ways or reasons why you're, besides products being not as good as they used to be, water quality does make a big difference. Now, as far as what she's talking about, you do have a gauge on your water heater that you can crank up to make it hotter. But you do have to be careful because a lot of kids, they'll just turn the hot water on and scald their hands if you're not careful. So not having a working gauge is no good.
So now he was like, I can replace just the drip pipe and I can replace just the tray, but I recommend replacing the whole thing because it's a gas heated, whatever. If there's nowhere for the gas and the steam could go, the whole thing could go kaboom. And I just got the quote for it. I just got the quote for fixing everything. How are y'all paying all these fucking homeowner bills and fixing all this shit?
Well,
Are you all strippers? Are you all winning the lottery every single month? Because how the fuck? I can't. Guys, I don't think I can thug this one out.
ooh, well, gas water heaters are certainly more expensive than electric, and they are very expensive nowadays. I used to be able to put in a nice 80-gallon, big 80-gallon gas water heater for probably $1,500, $2,000. Now they're a lot more expensive, and but there are alternatives to it. There's Instant Hot. So if you do have to replace your water heater, I recommend that you check out your options. So there, these new type of water heaters. Water heater is very inefficient, especially if it's, well, gas or electric. What happens is, imagine if you have a 40-gallon or 80-gallon, no matter how many gallon water heater tank you have. And by the way, people say hot water heater. You don't have to heat hot water. It's just a water heater. If you take this water heater tank and you have to constantly maintain a certain temperature, your electric is continuously running and going on to maintain the temperature in this 80 gallons of water to make it hot. So same with the gas. So it's constantly running and they're very expensive. That's why a lot of people like these tankless water heaters, and they're sort of like an on-demand. You turn the hot water on, boom, all of a sudden it heats the water and sends it to you. They're a lot more energy efficient, but they can also be a lot more expensive. And depending on where your water heater is in your house, we've all lived in those houses where the water heater's like 80 feet from the shower. You turn on the water and you got to stand there with your hand, waiting for it to get warm. So a lot of people will put multiple water heaters in their house and they use these tankless and they work great.
Okay, I'm not one to sugarcoat or tell you a lie. Let me be real honest with you guys right now. So I know I had a video about what to do if you want to purchase a home, but I'm on the other side of the coin now. I almost regret buying a home. One of the things to take into consideration is if you have an HOA, your HOA charges you every month. They can foreclose on your property faster than the mortgage company. They can raise it. There's no regulation on it. Yes, that's one of the reasons why. Another thing that I kind of miss about renting that I don't get the luxury of when I own a home, I have to fix everything myself. I hate that. I got to fix it. The thing is, it's not much cheaper than renting. Your property taxes go up, your HOA go up, your mortgage go up. Those are the cons, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, a lot of times it's more expensive to buy. She said it's the other way around. Now it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy with today's prices. But HOAs can destroy your life. I've recorded a video all about HOAs, the history of HOAs. They were corrupt at the core. And depending on who the regime is that's in charge determines whether you like or dislike your house and community and living there, because they sometimes it seems like they pick and choose enforcement, and some of the restrictions with the cost and not having the control over what they spend, you vote them into the position, and then they make their decisions and, hey, you voted them in, but a lot of times it will cost you special assessments, things like that. But there's a lawsuit that's actually, I'm getting ready to do a video on it, where Floridian couple are suing their HOA, and they've got this big protest scheduled, and it's crazy. I mean, the news channel went out to their house and they explained everything to them, and I mean, I think they have a really good case, but I wouldn't live in an HOA or a condominium association personally, because I don't like having a regime on top of a regime. You have the government, and this is like a government of your neighbors, and they're too nosy. They know everything about you. And sometimes you just want to be like, you know what? Leave me alone, right? They know when you have a party, when your dog takes a crap. But I suggest that you check out, if you're going to consider a house with an HOA, I think that you should become more educated on it. And one of the biggest things that I think you need to make sure that happens is that you have plenty of time to review your HOA or condominium documents. I would like for you to even have the opportunity to review those before you put an offer in on the house. And a lot of times it doesn't work that way. I get into that in my home buyers course, ways around that, how you can know a lot more about the house before you put an offer in on it. But HOA docs and condo docs are one of those items, right, that I suggest. Get your hands on these documents so that you know whether you even want to waste the time putting an offer in on the house. Because if your offer is accepted, you're going to start this chain of events like home inspection, and you're going to be writing a check for the appraisal. So you might spend $1,000 before you actually get your documents, and then realize you just wasted your $1,000 because you don't like what the documents have to say. So a tip that I have for you is that if you're going to move into an HOA and you're considering putting an offer on a house, contact a board member of the HOA and try and get your hand on those documents that you can review them before you even inquire about a house in the community.
You shouldn't buy a fucking house.
Now, you notice a lot of these people are dropping the F-bomb like every other word. Now, I know a lot of people that use the F-bomb, and hey, I've even been known to do it myself. But usually when I'm like really upset or mad, right? So, I mean, and I think that's the same way with a lot of people. You have your levels of curse words, right? The F-bomb is at like the top of the level. So when I hear people that are either they talk like that, and they're not around kids, hopefully, or whatever. But if they're going to use that word and putting it out on social media like that, they're probably pretty pissed off.
The roof was completely torn off and replaced in 2019. We called the company that did the roof for the previous owners, and the number's out of service. And the email, no response. So I'm pretty sure the roofing company is out of business because I can't seem to find them. I already have a hole in my ceiling downstairs. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Something's got to be done about that. That's not good. That's not good at all. That's really, really bad.
Yeah, when you have roof leaks, you really have a lot more damage. There's nothing that damages a house more than water. Whether you have a finished basement and groundwater is penetrating the walls and coming in, could really cause a lot of expense. And your groundwater, and maybe even the situation with this roof, if it wasn't damaged because of a hailstorm or tree branch falling on it, the insurance is probably not going to cover that either. So water really damages a house. You saw drywall needing to be repaired. Insulation could probably need to be replaced if it was soaking wet. And you may even need, once you rip those shingles off, you may even need to replace sheets of plywood. And there could be structural damage on top of that. So the other thing that she was saying was that the contractor was probably out of business. This happens, right? Who are you going to sue? Who are you going to go after at that point? The biggest thing is, and I want to just make a note because in one of my videos recently, I had one of our commenters, and I do read the comments. I don't always have time to sit there and reply to everybody, but I am reading comments. And one of our viewers had said, well, Todd only has bad things to say about buyers. Like buyers are at fault. It's their fault. It's the buyer's fault. Well, the fact is that it can be the seller's fault too. But see, you don't have to buy the house. So what happens is typically when you're looking at a remorse or a bad deal, the one the deal seems to affect the most is the one that ends up with the problem. And that's the buyer. So that's why I always focus on the buyer, because there's a phrase, a Latin term called caveat emptor, which means buyer beware. And the reason why is because what I just said. You're buying it. If you go out and you buy a car and the car is a piece of junk, is it the seller's fault or is it the buyer's fault for not doing their due diligence? And like I said in the beginning of the video, all we have seen in the last 3 or 4 years, really since 2020, is this exuberance that I've never experienced before amongst home buyers, where they just had to have it. No matter what, they just don't be told no. They want it. They're going to get it. They have to have it. So a lot of the problems that they're experiencing, not being able to sell their house because they're underwater, not being able to afford the repair costs, not being able to have a life because they are enslaved to their payments on their house. Would that really be the seller's fault? No. Now, I love you buyers. Believe me, I wrote a course to help you to navigate it. And I think people are really fortunate that if they can get that course before they've made mistakes, and it will help them avoid the mistakes, the common mistakes that we're hearing about right now. But again, it's buyer beware. It really comes down to you. And that's why it's really important that you pick the right agent to help you. And why I always get back to it. Now, I want to say one more thing here, because a lot of people give me flack because I say, if you're a first-time buyer, you should be working with a real estate agent who's been a homeowner before. And I catch all this flack from the agents who are like, Todd, why do you tell people that? That's crap? Didn't you start out somewhere? Well, no, I didn't have a real estate license until I'd owned many homes. But my point is that, how do you know what to look for if you're an agent? How do you know, like, well, I've had that happen before. When that happened, it cost me $12,000, right? So that's why if you're a first-time buyer, if you've bought homes before and you want to use your daughter's or son's friend or somebody or whoever that just got their license to help you, then have at it. If you're a first-time buyer, you should have an interview process, ask critical questions. One of those questions, have you ever owned a home before?
I mean, the owl gross that is actively wet. So like, what do you do when your roofing company that like warranted your roof for like 20 years or whatever goes out of business, or you can't find them anywhere? Like, do I have to just keep trying to hunt John down, or can I return this home for a refund? Please?
Oh, can I return the home for a refund? I want to take it back. I'm a good customer. I've been paying my mortgage payment every month for 6 months. Can I just send it back?
22, we purchased our first townhome, and it's 2025, and our home has not gained any equity. Nothing at all. I could go into this. I'm still so mad at myself about this. I actually got my real estate license and I was going to be a realtor. And
Hold on. She got her real estate license. Boy, I can't tell you how many times in the comments I've seen this. I'm not going to hire a realtor. I'm going to get my license and represent myself. Oh, really? Well, let me just share a little information with you. The salesperson prerequisite course or pre-exam test, whatever you want to call it, and getting your license, passing the test, paying the money, is not going to teach you how to buy a house.
I was the one that was the realtor for our purchase. My broker was not helpful at all.
Another thing she said, she called it realtor. It's a 2-syllable word, people. Realtor. That's it. I hear real estate agents all the time, realtors. They go, I'm a realtor. Okay.
I made such a big financial mistake. I mean, clearly, right? We have no equity in our home. We overpaid completely. Broker didn't care. She got a nice cut off of our sale. So many things went wrong.
What's that? Is that like somebody singing in the background? That's hilarious.
Like so many things. I still can't get over it. I'm talking about it. It's 2025. I'm still not over it.
You know, I'm sure there are a lot of real estate agents that bought houses in the last couple of years that now they haven't made a sale or maybe 2 sales and it's October practically. Maybe it would be October. Or they've made 2 sales and it's almost the end of the year. A lot of people in this industry are regretful that they're not making any money, at least the money that they used to.
Whole series of like this, but it's insane. Anyone have any advice on how to get over these things? Because
Yeah, you're fired.
The one financial decision I made in my 20s that I regret is buying a house. But it's probably not for the reasons you think. We didn't buy anything huge. We actually just bought half of what the bank said we could afford. They always try to push you into like the biggest mortgage possible. But I was like, if we can't pay all of our bills with a single salary, then I'm not buying it. But here's why I still regret it. First of all, we were very young. 24 years old, we really didn't know anything about anything, even though we tried to do our homework as much as possible and research and learn as much as we could. But because we don't know much, we trusted our realtor. Big mistake. Because they don't really care about you. They just want to sell you a house. I'm sure not all of them, but ours was terrible. And he was trying to push us into like some of the most horrible houses we had seen. And he wasn't even there at the closing to hand us the keys. He went off on a vacation and sent somebody else with his commission closing on the sale, probably.
You know, we got to talk about that for a minute. As you all know, if you've followed me before, I have agents and we've been through periods of time where we've had more agents than others. And right leading up to the pandemic, you know, we were probably 3 times the size we are right now. And we're small brokerage by design, intentionally. And I started hearing from our agents where they're like, yeah, well, I'm not going to go to the home inspection because it's a waste of time. Whoa, time out. See you later. That's not how we do things here. First of all, and this was back before home prices doubled, what are you getting paid for? Now, I know, and people say all the time, well, all we're meant to do is find ready, willing, and able buyers to, essentially bona fide buyers to buy a house, facilitate the transaction, give some advice along the way. Yeah, that's important, right? Professional advice. I think that's what you should be, a fiduciary. You should be giving professional advice. But this crap where agents are not going to inspections because it's a waste of their time, they say, well, it's a liability for me being there. Yeah, it's a liability for your broker for you not to be there, right? But because we're not home inspectors, so it's a waste of my 2 hours or 3 hours of time. Look, now we're starting to see where during this 2020 era, there were situations where, you know, we were limiting the amount of people that were at the settlement. A lot of times, I mean, during the height of the pandemic, we were passing forms, the title company through the, crack in the window, and people were signing them, passing them back. But for an agent not to go to what should be one of the most enjoyable days of your life, if you do the process right, in getting the keys to your house, right? That's an accomplishment. That is a moment of celebration for that person that helped you with that journey in selecting that home. Not to be there is just, to me, is just unacceptable. You agents out there, if you're listening to this and that's you, I think you need to get your priorities straight.
The second reason is that I didn't know it back then when we bought the house, but 2 years later, we both really wanted to travel, like full-time travel, which is really hard to do when you have a house and a mortgage.
You're stuck.
It worked out in the end because we put all our stuff in storage and we rented the house out, but it would have been a lot easier if we didn't have a property and a mortgage to worry about. Buying a house is such a huge decision and such a huge responsibility. And I grew up believing that that's what you're supposed to do.
But yet we're pushing people. You're wasting your money. You're making some landlord rich. Why are you doing that? Who is coming up with that narrative? You know, you buy a house when you're financially prepared, you're ready, you're mature enough to know what it is that you're doing, you're settling down. There's a lot of different reasons. Maybe you're buying it just as a rental. You want to rent, but you want a rental. But being clear with your intentions, not buying into the narrative that you're throwing your money away renting. Now, look, I get paid when I sell houses. The flip side of things, you say, well, Todd, but you're a landlord. No, I'm not. I've gotten rid of all of my residential properties. I was a great landlord. I didn't jack my rents up on people every single year. Not saying that I shouldn't have or that you're a bad landlord if you don't, because depending on operational costs, you may need to raise your rents. But I was what I would consider a very good landlord, but I'm not currently in the residential rental business. So you can't come back and say to me, well, of course you want her to not buy or someone to not buy because you want them to rent from you. I'm purely stating advice from a factual standpoint that it can be bad for you financially and emotionally if you buy a house when you're not fully prepared to do so.
Can this house please just stop testing me? I've had it less than a year. I've replaced the entire AC. That was $14,000. That drained my savings. Then I had to upgrade the electrical system. Then the basement flooded. It got gutted. I got hit with a $15,000 cleaning company bill, and the insurance won't help with anything. I'm still trying to clean off some of the things damaged in the flood, and I can't even use the hose now. Like, is there anything else that could go wrong? Just don't buy a house.
Yeah. So, your heart has to go out to somebody. And you always have to look at when you see examples of videos or TikTok videos or Instagram videos, you have to say, what's the validity of them, right? You have to consider whether you believe somebody's going through a scenario or whether they're just kind of making up to make a TikTok video. I mean, you listen to something like that. This sounds to me like somebody that really has been going through it, right? I mean, bought a house, everything's breaking, everything's going wrong. It's terrible, right? A home inspection is going to catch a lot of things, but I think understanding the magnitude, the age of the house, what has been replaced, what could go wrong, there are a lot of possibilities. The unfortunate thing is when someone is buying a home for the first time and they go to a loan officer or a real estate agent, and their agent says to them, look, before we go out looking at houses, we want to find out what you're qualified for. What can you afford? And I'm going to give you to my referral here. It's a loan officer, and they're going to pre-qual you, and then they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. They're going to try and find out what you're comfortable with in your payment and tell you what kind of a house that you can afford. But there is no mortgage company or loan officer that is going to say to you, well, let's look at that house and determine what will the cost be of owning that house for the next 5 years or 3 years or 12 months for that matter. So when somebody spends all of their money, like this individual, all their money in putting their money down on the house and then everything's breaking, you're screwed. And a lot of times if you don't have resources or somebody that can help you out, you're putting them on high debt credit cards where you're paying 25, 30% interest annually, or you're not fixing it and your home is going to deteriorate faster and faster. Your quality of life is going down as well. So I think the bottom line here is when we're looking at listening to somebody like me, try and talk sense into people that, I want you to buy a house. I want you to have a house, but I want you to afford it, and I want it to be a good experience for you. So I want you to go into it eyes wide open. And again, that's why I created my Todd Simple Home Buying course. The best thing I can do for you is tell you to get that course if you're looking to buy a house. If you've bought a house and you're going through this type of experience or what you're hearing here, sharing that experience with your friends and your peers that are envious of you for owning a home might be something that you could do to help them out as well. So we want people to be educated, be aware, know what they're getting themselves into. And even though we can never guess what tomorrow will bring with our jobs and health or whatever it is that could affect your ability to pay your mortgage payment, these things are avoidable, right? Well, we're hearing most of this 100% avoidable. So see you next time. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a brief minute and share some exciting news. I have just released my new Todd Simple home buying course. This course is designed for anyone wanting to know how to buy a home. It's designed to take you through the entire home buying process from start to finish. You'll learn how to represent yourself should you want to avoid paying real estate commissions, the best ways to shop for a home, how to avoid costly mistakes, what to look for when touring a home, negotiation tactics, and so much more. In this home buying course, I hold nothing back. In fact, I would go to say that no one has uncovered the home buying process like I have. I've even made a way for you to gift this course to your family and friends. Visit sacsrealty.education. The link is also pinned in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked the video, you can let us know by smashing that thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so now. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content just like this. Keep those comments and questions coming. And one of the biggest compliments you can do for us all here at Sachs Realty is to share our channel and this video with your family and friends. This will help us to continue to build this amazing online community with viewers just like yourself. See you next time. Sachs Realty, Maryland broker number 607720, office number 443-318-4514, equal housing opportunity.